I bet Guilliman would be the worst kind of 40k player. But outside of running an Ultramarines army, has anyone ever asked what he would bring to the table? Well, as the author of the Codex Astartes, ruler of the 500 worlds of Ultramar, the Lord Commander of the Imperium, and the Avenging Bean Counter, I think there's enough to go off of when it comes to building a G-Man and army. Like his brothers, Guilliman was scattered into the warp, arriving on the techno-feudal world of Macragge. There he would study and practice all aspects of rulership under the close counsel of his adopted father and in fear of the disappointment of his mother. Eventually, he would achieve rulership over his homeworld, as following a failed coup, his father, one of the planet's 2 rulers, was killed. A few weeks later, Guilliman had the second ruler arrested and executed, literally smashing the dude's head with a rock. From there, Guilliman would find his father, his maker, the Emperor, and his brother Primarchs. Becoming a renowned legion and empire builder, Guilliman's forces became known for their diverse skill set and tactical mastery, as well as being the Primarch with the biggest legion with at least 250,000 Marines under his belt, which is fucking ridiculous. Eventually, the heresy would break out, and Guilliman would enforce the Codex Astartes across all of the Loyalist legions. These cut the tens or even sometimes hundreds of thousands of Marines into small 1,000-man chapters. I trust you guys know enough about the Codex for me not to have to explain it. But let's get to the point of the video. What kind of army would Guilliman run? Well, before that, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure YouTube's Machine Spirit sees our efforts and our growing community. So I've broken this video down into 3 parts. Guilliman's lore, which we just covered now, and the other 2 parts will be focusing on building Guilliman his army, one for a 500-point game and one for a 1,000-point game. So make sure to stay to the end so you can see what kind of army Guilliman would have at 1,000 points. But before we can fully begin, a few ground rules. First, characters must use the armies they are part of in lore, so Guilliman isn't going to be leading a Custodes army anytime soon. Second, and related, if attachment exists that is meant to be based off that sub-faction in particular, we must take it. And third, Guilliman is our leader, but in this case he's also going to be our player, meaning we cannot include Roboute as a model in this list. Good? No? Too bad. Starting off, let's cover what we'll be starting with. Space Marines, Ultramarines, and for Detachment, I think the Gladius Task Force is a clear choice. It is the default rule from 9th edition after all. So, for the 500-point build, I think Guilliman would take almost all of his inspiration directly from his own work, the Codex Astartes. Because of this, I could see Guilliman instantly auto-selecting a Space Marine captain as both his first HQ and Warlord. Alongside the captain, Guilliman would have him equipped with the Adept of the Codex Enhancement, as he would expect all of his sons to be masterful students in his own teachings. Moreover, I could see Guilliman doubling down on this line of thinking, selecting a lieutenant to join in as a second HQ. After all, 2 leaders would double the chances of success. Now, before we give our lieutenant any enhancements, let's go over the other units in this army. Before you assume that I just went to Battle Scribe and put all this stuff together, I did not. In fact, I embraced my arrogant pencil pusher of a brother, and I made sure all the units had some form of synergy and cohesion. Aware of the point limit, Guilliman would likely avoid units with hyper elites or super heavies. Instead, I think Guilliman would instead resort to more standard battle line units as much as possible, particularly those that are best suited to the 3 combat doctrines themselves. Meaning, ideally, we want at least 1 unit in this list to benefit from at least 1 other combat doctrine. Starting off, to coordinate with the captain's high melee output, the benefit of his invulnerable save, and his leadership abilities, Guilliman would add a 5-man squad of assault intercessors. Their ability to reroll 1s to wound rolls means that playing aggressive with them is a must. Not to mention, these guys work as our default assault doctrine unit. But while we're talking about combos, the captain's Adept of the Codex ability is also great, because this allows us to play even more aggressively with our intercessors. Worst case scenario, you overcommit, and then you freely fall back, only to then countercharge using your tactical doctrine. Meanwhile, the lieutenant could take on a leadership role as well. And while I will add a 5-man squad of basic intercessors, they will not be the ones joining the lieutenant. You might ask why. It's because we want to take full advantage of the tactical precision ability, which gives bodyguard units lethal hits. While lethal hits would be good on basic intercessors, it's almost a war crime if you throw these guys on Sternguard with combi weapons. Together, this gives our Sternguard access to a weapon that is not only anti-infantry, but has rapid fire, devastating wounds, and lethal hits. And because even Guilliman would recognize the potential, he'd also throw in the fire discipline enhancements onto the lieutenant. This will add sustained hits, which, if triggered, automatically leads to devastating wounds, and with the added bonus of firing discipline, makes it possible to score critical hits on a 5+. Now, my math may be wrong, but what I'm getting is that during your devastating doctrine turn, Models in this unit have a 33% chance to deal mortal wounds, and they have a possibility of landing 15 attacks. Now, onto the basic intercessors. They'll be our tactical doctrine unit, and the way we can take advantage of the fallback and shoot, allowing us to engage with the assault weapons, advancing and shooting, before falling back if we need to with the tactical doctrine ability. Something that is hugely beneficial given the fact that our intercessors will be moving into no man's land and taking objectives. At least that's why we want them in the first place. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people will be content to stop there with a 500-point list. But not Girly Man, because if you've been keeping track or I've been doing my job, you should know that we still have 60 points to work with. And knowing Guilliman, he'd aim to make every point accounted for. This is where the Ancient with the Artificer armor enhancement comes in. Not only does this combo exactly equal 60 points, but the Ancient, if it leads a unit, adds a +1 to the OC of all models in the unit he's leading, which makes it a perfect combo for the Intercessors, who start off with an OC of 2. Then, if you account for what the Artificer armor actually does, that is giving the Ancient a 2+ save and a 5 of Feel No Pain, you're literally turning Mr. Flag Holder Guy into a walking tank. Side point, I was actually considering kit bashing an Ancient whose flag was pinned to the Primaris Relic shield. I wanted to have it be the tan leather of an Apex Predator that Marine fought and killed. Unfortunately, never got around to actually making it. Speaking of Ancients and shields though, if you can get this combo into No Man's Land, which I said you should be going for, the Ancient can actually change his Feel No Pain to a 5 up to a 4+. If you don't understand how Feel No Pains work, basically you roll a dice whenever you take damage, and if the number that you roll is higher than whatever you need, that model ignores damage, straight up powering through bolter rounds and melta blasts. So far so good, but that's only the 500-point list. What about the 1,000 points? Well, this should go a lot faster since the main thesis of our list is pretty much easy to understand. For the 1,000-point list, Guilliman would likely trade the Assault Intercessors for a 6-man squad of Blade Guard, who will still be led by the captain. The Intercessors and the Ancients will still stick together too, but they'll go from a 5-man to a 10-man. It's for the rest of the list that the army gets a little bit more wild though. Next up, we'll be doubling on our Lieutenant and Stern Guard combo. We're not stopping there though, because we're going heavy into our Devastator Doctrine, because we're missing some heavy armor in this lineup. So we'll be throwing in a pair of Impulsor transports. Yes, 2 transport tanks. These tanks have a crapload of guns alongside the firing deck rule, allowing both these tanks to have access to the Stern Guard and Lieutenant's ranged weapons and use them as if they were their own. Now, while it won't benefit from the Lieutenant's bonuses, this is still a tank with 11 wounds, moving 12 inches around the table with the ability to fire off 20 or more shots in a single round. And that's not even counting the Devastator Doctrine being active. And the best part, all this together gives us a total of exactly 1,000 points. Like I said earlier, Guilliman is the type of player to optimize his list to the very last point. But what about a 2,000 point army, I bet you guys are asking. Well, don't worry, I hear you, my loyal heretic. You want more. Well, here's your homework and your orders. If this video gets, we'll say, 2,000 views, I'll make Guilliman a 2,000 point army. And if you guys want to drop your own thematic list for what Guilliman's army might be, you can do all that in the comment section below. And if there's another character from 40k you guys want me to do this for, feel free to let me know who that is in the comment section below as well. But with all that out of the way, I've got nothing else to say, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. Bye!